Welcome back. It is time to talk about your second stimulus on this Friday, June 26th, 2020. We don't have much news on the one side of things, which is from the White House and members of Congress. We had your updates yesterday and not much has changed. We do know that we want to see an additional, that there is movement on an additional round of checks, an additional round of direct stimulus checks, if the economic numbers warrant it. We heard from Monica Crowley on the White House. We heard from Larry Kudlow that they think another round of stimulus checks directly would go to the American people. Again, we heard from Monica Crowley saying, if the numbers bear it out. What is she talking about? She's talking about, of course, those jobs numbers that are set to come out in about a week or so. So we'll get that first round of jobs numbers next Friday from June. All eyes on those jobs numbers. We just lost another 1.5 million people filing for unemployment. So I can't imagine that things are shifting in a great direction right now, especially as lockdowns look like they might unfold again and cases are breaking out all over the country. So we'll see, we'll keep our eyes on that. So there are negotiations ongoing right now between the Senate and the White House, working back and forth on some of those details, but not much has changed from what we told you yesterday, which is liability protection from the Senate side for businesses, payroll tax cut from the White House, infrastructure from the White House, and also state and local government spending from Democrats. All of those things are on the table, as well as direct payments to the American people. Now, we don't know anything about rental assistance, mortgage assistance from the federal government, hazard pay, frontline worker pay, anything like that. We don't know. All we know is from the HEROES Act that was passed a few weeks ago by Democrats. That is old news at this point, so you might as well throw that out the window. If any of that survives, I would be in shock. But the big news that we did have over the night that I reported here in some breaking news yesterday, and I want to bring it to you, those of you who might have missed it, is Kevin Hastett. Now, I think this is important because he had been the face of this White House economic team. He had been out there publicly talking about the stimulus, talking about the jobs numbers. He was on every major network on a regular basis, was he? Well, he announced that he's leaving. Now, it was an unpaid temporary spot, but we didn't know that he would leave with this sort of ominous message that he had, which was, I think everyone should be worried about how this is going to turn out in the end. It's because it's a shock unlike anything we've ever seen. Those were his words as he sounded the alarm and left the White House. What is he talking about? What is Kevin Hastett talking about? Is he talking about the economy? Is he talking about coronavirus? Remember, he got slammed. He got slammed, of course, a few weeks ago when he said that COVID-19 deaths would go to zero by the end of May. By the end of May. Well, that didn't happen. He also predicted that we would be back to 3.5% unemployment by Election Day. Does anyone here right now in our chat room think that that's going to happen? Anyone here, leave me a comment that we're going to go back to 3.5% unemployment in that short of amount of time? 4 months? Okay. When so many businesses are now permanently closed, that would be astounding. That would be absolutely astounding if that's the case. So Kevin Hastett out, but there is a stimulus that is making its way around, and again, it is from Senator Martha McSally, a Republican from Arizona. We're getting some more details now about what this $4,000 per month travel plan would look like. And basically, I think it's a stimulus for rich people. That's really what it is, if you want to, not to put too fine a point on it. But it would help direct thousands of dollars in subsidies for families to go on vacation. But basically only if they're reasonably affluent. If they have money, they can afford to go on these vacations. It's called the American Tax Rebate and Incentive Program Act, or the American TRIP Act. And McSally says it'll help boost domestic travel and jumpstart the comeback of our hotels, entertainment sectors, local tourism agencies, and thousands of businesses that rely on tourism. And it would be for 3 years. She said the legislation would enable you the tax credit for up to 3 years, be for 2020, 2021, and 2022. It'd be a $4,000 travel credit for individuals and $8,000 for joint filers. How are you able to read this any way other than this is for rich people? Who has $8,000 to go on a Disney cruise right now? The credit applies to all travel within the United States, according to the updated proposal, and its territories, so only the U.S. and its territories. as long as the travel and related expenses are incurred at least 50 miles from the principal residence of the flyer. So if you're 50 miles away from home and you go to a hotel or you go to a restaurant, you go to a national park, go to a water park that's 50 miles away from your house, that would count. It sounds like an accounting nightmare. How are you going to keep track of this? Is the IRS going to be trying to flag all of these things? Sounds like a nightmare. Expenses qualifying for the tax credit include lodging, travel, and entertainment. For flyers who own a second home, expenses related to live entertainment, food and beverage, and transportation qualify. So if you have a second home and you're traveling to go experience that second home, you'd get a tax credit. I mean, is that not like a travel voucher for rich people? That's literally in the proposal? If you're traveling to your second home, but expenses related to the dwelling itself would not qualify. Oh, that's good. Okay. So I couldn't, this is in the proposal, that I wouldn't be able to pay my mortgage or the interest or the maintenance of my second home, but I could travel there and go skiing at my ski chalet or to my, to my ranch in New Mexico and all of that. It would also provide $50 million to help destination marketing organizations promote travel and tourism across the country. So these companies could print out flyers to say, come to the Grand Canyon, come to beautiful Santa Fe, come to the healing baths of French Lick, Indiana. $50 million, that's a necessity right now. I could tell you what you could do with $50 million that would probably help a lot more people than creating travel promotional materials to show me where to fly to. Here's what McSally had to say about it. She says, my legislation will help boost domestic travel and jumpstart the comeback of our hotels, entertainment sectors, local tourism agencies, and thousands of businesses. I don't deny that. I don't deny that this would help the tourism industry that is crushed. A lot of jobs, a lot of people that rely on it for their way of life and living. She says it will also encourage Americans to safely get out of their homes and discover or rediscover Arizona, along with the rest of this amazing destinations our country has to offer after a difficult several months stuck inside. I look forward to working with both sides of the aisle to help restart our economy by passing this bill. And President Trump is on board with it. Back in May, he liked the idea of a $4,000 tax credit for restaurant and travel expenses. He called it the Explore America tax credit that they could use for domestic travel. Of course, he owns hotels, and I think he likes the idea of making sure that hotels are taken care of. Not to be cynical, but come on. But where would you go? I mean, right now, we see this lockdown. We see all of the problems across the country right now. I mean, need me to show the map again here? I will. Let's look at Arizona. So she's saying, yeah, it'll help people get back out of Arizona. Huge spikes in cases in Arizona. In Texas. Yeah, 77% in Arizona. Look at that. So go explore Arizona right now. You get $4,000. You can go out there and see the rest of the country right now. Or pick any one of these other states. You want to go to any of these other ones where they've got lots of coronavirus spikes right now? Go to Texas. You want to go to Texas? You want to go out to Moab, Utah? It's beautiful. You want to go there right now? No, thank you. No, thank you. So I think it has a tough road to passage, but when you have a lot of Republicans on board with this thing, and you have the president that's in favor of it, we might see this tax credit. I'm all for people getting an incentive to go out and spend money at restaurants and hotels and kind of influxing that economy. But it seems like this is just a nice old bill for rich people. Travel to your second home, and the expenses you incur by traveling to your second home count. So you can go there and not spend money because your house is already fully stocked. So we're basically just paying for you to drive there or fly there. It seems ridiculous. But that's Congress for you. Mostly ridiculous. So big question in all the stimulus news is, how in the world are we going to pay for all of this? Well, we're getting some idea now because all these cash-starved cities and states that can't really afford to do anything right now, according to the news this morning, according to the Washington Post, we're about to see a whole new slew of taxes. So just when you thought we were out of the woods on taxes, we're about to see new taxes on cigarettes, homes, and they're going to call on the big tech giants to help pay for budget shortfalls. Let me go through some of the data right now. These increases, cash-starved cities and states across the country are weighing whether or not to raise taxes on homes, cigarettes, local businesses, global tech giants. Also trying to think if they can add more money through parking meters. Philadelphia has already increased fees on parking, raised wage taxes on workers who reside outside of the city. So if you live outside of Philly and you work inside the city, they're making sure you're paying for it. Chicago is also doing the same thing. Seattle, Chicago's facing a $700 million budget shortfall. And how do you make it up? Taxes. Listen to this. Nashville, Tennessee, took the eye-popping step just a few weeks ago to raise property taxes by 34% in Nashville. How many of you are from Nashville that you saw this? Huge increase in property taxes. So unlike the federal government, which can just cut taxes and rack up huge deficits and do whatever they want, these state and local governments generally must balance their budgets every year. They have no choice. They can't run huge deficits like the federal government can. They have to come up with ways to pay this stuff. And if all these people can't pay their mortgages, that means they can't pay their local property taxes either. And what does that do to the people who can? Increase property taxes, increase parking meter prices, increased parking fees at local garages. So your taxes probably in your municipality are going to go up significantly to make up for a lot of these shortfalls right now, thanks to COVID-19, and thanks to the federal government for not getting off its butt and getting us a new round of stimulus. So that's the very latest on the stimulus. That's the very latest on Sally McSally's plan, the $4,000 travel voucher for the next 3 years. I'd love to hear your thoughts about it in the comments below. Are you up for that? Do you think it's just a bill for rich people? Would you take that on? Would you actually use it? And what would you actually want to see in the form of a stimulus? Let me know in the comments below.